folks, Mike and McGee here. I've had a few of you ask me to do a clover update, and that's what I'm going to do today. I've got 4 fields with clover in it, each one vastly different. So first of all, we're going to start with this field. It's split down the middle with corn stalks where I left standing corn for picking ear corn. We did that, and now I've got it bush hogged down. Those corn stalks are high in carbon, and that will break down slowly into the soil, so it is good for the soil, not necessarily going to feed the next corn crop like clover, because clover gives it nitrogen, and that's what corn is just dying to get, is nitrogen, nitrogen, nitrogen. And as I've told you in the past, crimson clover is a big boom when it comes to nitrogen. Possibly 100 pounds per acre. That's pretty good. And it's really available, and it breaks down throughout the year, feeding that corn. I've showed you in years past, I don't even have to fertilize when I use this nitrogen from this clover. This is an interesting field. On the far edge, when I planted it, it came up great. All of it came up, but I ended up with the middle of the field looking sparse. It looked dry, even though it wasn't dry, and it looked like it got frosted even though it wasn't even cold yet. And then we got some terribly cold temperatures later, plummeted down to 10 below 0 Fahrenheit. That should have killed it, but it didn't. This stuff is very hardy. And as you know, I mixed it with wheat, because wheat or oats or something like that triggers more nitrogen to be produced by the clover, so I love to mix them. I hope that as spring progresses and we have warm weather, that it will fill in better and come up and bloom good, because when it blooms, that's when nitrogen is at the peak, and that's when I either mow it. I think I've learned something. I think I'm going to disc it before I plow it instead of mowing it, because when you mow it, you end up still with some tangled mess, and when you try to plow it under it, it gets bogged in your plow. And I had that happen several times. I'm going to try that. I've got a bog disc. It would really cut it up good. Now let's go right over here to the latest one. I planted it just in February, just last month. Let's see how it's coming up. Okay, you're going to recognize this field. This is where I had potatoes growing last year. I planted them in February. They did very well. Since it's on a hillside, I alternated potatoes and grass all the way down the hill. I had about 19 rows, 210 pounds of seed potatoes, made roughly, if I remember right, around 700 pounds of final potatoes that we dug. So the day we dug them in the summer, I disked it and I planted soybeans. That turned out to be the best crop here. I mean, absolutely beautiful. Brought in the deer. Of course, we hunt, harvested a deer or two. I came back in February after the beans had pretty well done their thing. They're just hanging there dry. The deer pretty well finished eating them, and they're moving on to other food sources. And I disked in February, you saw me plant clover. Basically the rule of thumb, any month with the letter R in it. And in my opinion, the earlier the better. You get toward March and April, you're gonna start getting some heat that's gonna start fighting you. So this is the latest I've ever planted clover for a field like this. But look, it has come up well. I fully believe that by late May or early June, it's gonna be headed out, beautiful blooms, and we're gonna be putting some corn in this field. I'm very excited about it. It looks great, and I think the soybeans are feeding this. I think there's carbon and nitrogen going into that soil from the soybeans. So that's a win. I'm very happy with this field. Let's go on up to the field where we had the blue corn, because that field's really got me fairly excited. Now this field has turned out to be the most amazing that I've had all year, and it's strictly due to one thing. I had soybeans in this field this tall that I disked down when I planted this cover crop. It was amazing. We had corn planted 2 rows and then skipped a big wide swath, 2 rows and skipped 8 feet in between each section of corn. And I had beautiful field of soybeans growing in between the corn rows. That worked absolutely amazing, but what happened was when we disked that soybean structure down, even though it was green and beautiful, what that did is it laid there on the ground, slowly rotting, and it maintained a constant moisture level. There wasn't none of this up and down with the moisture level. And I'm telling you right now, we've got wheat and we've got clover like nobody's business. Nobody else has anything that looks close to this in my area, because those soybeans we disked under were absolutely the epitome of perfection. And not only that, but they also, when it got down 10 below, it was an insulation factor. I mean, this is absolutely gorgeous. I cannot believe how good it is. Very, very happy. This is going to be the first field to be ready. That wheat and that clover is a perfect mixture, just absolutely working together. I know I need to do soil samples. I don't know if I'm going to have time. It would be a lot of fun to be able to read what this soil is doing. Obviously, the soil right now, if I dug it up, is going to have what we had in the fall. It won't be until this breaks down in the soil before this will start affecting the nitrogen in the soil. But that's what this year's corn crop is going to be feeding on, is this right here. So it really doesn't matter so much what the soil is now, it's what it will be when the corn is growing all these stages on up to 14, 15 feet tall, because that's how tall it grew here last year. Even though we didn't put a speck of nitrogen fertilizer on it, the clover did its job well. And that's what we really, really are excited about. Very happy. We have very good growing conditions right now. The rain, the sun, it's just all working together. I am looking forward to getting with you in May, disking this, plowing this under. People say that's the wrong thing to do. I'm telling you right now, when you leave this on top of the ground, the sun is a nitrogen killer. And when you get it under that dirt, the sun cannot kill that nitrogen, and it's slowly going to be assimilated by the roots of the corn. It's going to be available. And I know a lot of the nitrogen is in the roots of the clover, but these tops are absorbing the nitrogen from the air. The nitrogen in the air is a huge percentage, way more than oxygen or any other thing. And it's just pulling it in. And I learned back when I was grazing it that I was losing a huge amount when I grazed it. The amount of poo that come from a pig was not giving back the amount of nitrogen that they were eating, which is also a protein. So I use it for my corn. I'm feeding it to my corn. The pigs can have the corn later. They'll get a lot more benefit from it with the sugars and all that good stuff, the protein and sugars. So that's what we're doing. We largely produce silage, because a lot of our corn, the majority of our corn, goes to our cows. So silage turned out to be a huge deal for us this year. We made roughly 50 tons of it, and I mean, we're still feeding it heavy. So let's go over to the field. It's the last one I have to show you where the silage pile is, and let's see what kind of a clover patch we've got coming on over there. All right, here we are at the silage pile. This field is growing beautiful clover. It's got the best green look of any of my clover pretty much. And of course, it's right here. We planted it pretty much the last of our fall planting. And to be honest with you, I thought it was gonna not come up that great, but it has come up wonderfully. And as you can see, I've still got half of my silage left. There's probably 20 tons right there, maybe 15. And this here is not tightly packed. This is just the stuff that comes off the top that the cows won't eat. That right there, my friend, is the best fertilizer money can't even buy. I mean, that right there will grow corn like nobody's business. I've experienced it, so I know what I'm talking about. And I've had a few critics say, really screwing up by not using a better system to make sure that you don't lose that top layer of silage. The truth is, if I was barely coming in with enough silage to feed my animals, yes, I would need to do that. But I made basically more than I needed. And so not only am I getting feed for basically free, I've got a pile of fertilizer there that also didn't cost me very little. I don't even buy seed. So this whole thing is just showing you how economical you can literally grow your own feed if you've got your land to do it with. That's all you need. Your land, you need a tractor, you need a planter. I mean, for the first, I don't know how many years, we planted it with a push planter. I pushed it myself till the boys got big enough, and then they would come along and push it as I tilled, and we would plant this whole thing in a matter of a few hours. Now we've got a pull behind Alice Chalmers, and it plants 2 rows at a time, knock it out in just a few minutes. So you don't have to be rich to grow feed for your animals. To grind the silage, we didn't use no fancy silage chopper. We just got a wood chipper and put it through by hand. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Took 7 full days to get this pile completed. Very, very happy with our program, and I'm trying to convince a lot of people to grow the clover, because the clover is the key to saving hundreds, if not thousands, of dollars in this whole program. And it's one of the few things I actually have to buy, the clover seed. If I had a way to harvest it, I might would grow a field just for seed. But this here, when we plow it under, it's just coming to full bloom, so there's no seed. But if you wait for seed, you lose a lot of your nitrogen benefits. And the whole program is get the nitrogen in the soil so you can grow that tall corn. 15 foot tall, I'm telling you, it's unbelievable. And I still get a lot of people that doubt that it works, even though the proof is in the pudding. I'm doing it, it's working. I like it. That's all I can say. I don't want to go out and spend $2,000 for fertilizer and then have to apply it and all this, when all I got to do is plow under, and I was going to do that anyway. So it's just like unbelievable time savings, unbelievable money savings, and it produces unbelievable feed and more fertilizers, I show you here. That will not be hard at all to spread over this field when it comes time. I don't want to put it on there now and kill out a lot of my clover. Everything in its time, folks. And at this time, it's time for me to get out of here. So we hope you have a great day. We'll see you on the next video.